the keeping halacha in some percentage. So it's hard to say, like, for example, I'm religious if I just keep everything 100%, but I will keep, probably I know, like, just some number, like 10% of the whole halacha, and I try to keep 8%, and I try to grow. But if I say, like, oh, I keep 100% or the rest is nothing, it's hard to...
How do you feel when your battery only has 10% on your phone?
No, I'm saying...
It starts to flash at you, you know, it's going to shut down, it's going to die.
No, the number I'm just, like, saying.
No, I know. I'm not here to tell you how we judge people, who are religious, who's not. I don't care. Everybody in the world keeps halakha.
Yeah. Some percentage.
No, anybody who believes in God keeps halakha. Anybody who believes in the court system keeps halakha. Anybody who respects their parents keeps halakha. I'm not here to tell you, yes, no, I'm not here to say anything bad about anybody. I can tell, but listen, David HaMelech says, En tzaddik ba'aretz, there's no righteous person in the world, asher ya'aseh tov, who will do good, v'lo yichta, and will not sin. Everyone makes mistakes. The question is, when I push you up against the wall and say, listen, between you and me, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you want to follow Shulchan Aruch? Yeah, you really want to be, and I'll say yes, that's a halachic person. That's a halachic person.
That's a very hard call, because... you know that sometimes you might cheat, like...
That's okay. But at least to agree that there is a system of halakha in the world. And unfortunately, the way I see the Jewish community evolving, especially outside of Israel, is how far away can we run from halakha?
Really?
The Jewish community has been getting much more religious and much less halachic. Not everything that feels good is Jewish. Not everything that someone Jewish says is Jewish. I'll give you an example. Not all music played by Jewish people is Jewish music. Yeah? You can have someone who's Jewish, he plays music. Doesn't make it Jewish just because you're Jewish. They once came to Rav Shach. Rav Shach was one of the giants of the Lithuanian Jewish community in Israel. And they asked Rav Shach, in Israel what they call religious Jewish music? No. Here we call it Jewish music. What do they call it in Israel? They call it musica chasidit. Hasidic music. It doesn't make a difference if it's Sepharadic music. It's still called musica. It's Hasidic music. So they came to ask Rav Shach what he thinks about musica chasidit, Jewish music. And Rav Shach said, I'll tell you the truth. You asked me about two things I know nothing about. I know nothing about music, and I know nothing about Hasidim. But I can tell you that the one thing I do know is this might be music, but it definitely has nothing to do with Hasidim. Yeah? Not everything that's played by a Jewish guy is Jewish. What do you do with a Jewish band who takes a non-Jewish song and it puts Jewish words in it? Doesn't make it Jewish. Doesn't make it Jewish. Of course not. So I'm not saying that it's innately bad, but not everything that, it's not when you're. So what is really? I'm not coming to tell you now what is really Jewish. I don't know if there really is such a thing. What I'm telling you is, we have things that are definitely Jewish. Halakha is definitely Jewish. Not everything that some rabbi says, that some person does, not everything you have to take into consideration. Not every book that you see on a bookshelf, you have to take into consideration. We have, at the end of the day, those of you who have been with us from the beginning, Shulchan Aruch, Maran, Rama, you have these two giants. You have people who are poskim. Poskim? You have the Rambam, you have the Rashba, you have the Rosh, you have giants. Not just, it's a mistake, not just Faradim, not just Ashkenazim. Everybody, all across the board, we had real poskim. Real poskim. And when we look at our tradition, we have to say, what do our poskim say? Then we have another question. And the question is, what do our poskim say? And what does the truth tell us? What does the truth tell us?
What do you mean the truth?
That's exactly what I'm going to tell. What does it mean the truth? Emet. We have an obligation of being emet, truth with people. Midvar sheker tirchat. From any kind of falsehood, distance yourself from it. We have an obligation. Lo taguru mipnei ish. What does that mean? Hashem tells us in the Torah, you shall not be fearful of another person. Who is Hashem speaking to here? Do you remember this mitzvah?
They should not be fearful from other people?
Yeah.
When you're like doing a testimony.
Okay, exactly. In the areas of court, when you have to tell the truth, You tell the truth. You don't worry what are they going to feel, what are they going to say. What does that one say? What is one? You have an obligation to tell the truth. If you're a judge, you have an obligation to judge the truth. Oh, what happens if the person who's going to lose is the wealthy guy who pays all the rabbi salaries? So, could be you shouldn't be in your courtroom. That's a problem. Conflict of interest. But you still have to tell the truth. Because lo tagur mipnei ish. There is never anything that gets in the way of the truth. And those of you who would be in my Monday morning class, you know, so we've been arguing about this for a long time. Do you lie for shalom bayit? And please hold a rule in your hand. It's not true what they tell you you're allowed to lie for shalom bayit. It's not true. There is no such halakha. It's an invention. There is a teaching of our rabbis. Our rabbis tell us you're allowed to alter things in order for peace. To lie, to make up a story, to think about it in a logical, forget halakha, in a logical manner. So you lie to your wife. In order to be a good liar, you have to have a good memory. You have to remember things. I'll tell you, I told this to the ladies on Monday morning. I once lied to somebody. I'm sure I lied, not intentionally, but intentionally I once lied to somebody. I was at somebody's house in Israel. They invited me to their house. They served gefilte fish. Gefilte and I don't have such a good relationship. And I told them, I'm sorry, I don't like fish. I don't like fish. I meant gefilte fish. But at the end of the day, Poskim tell us, a lie is what a person perceives, not what you're saying. You could say something true, but if they perceive it as a falsehood, it's your fault. Okay, so 2 months later, I came back to their house, and they served salmon. So I ate the salmon. So we thought you said you don't like fish. I had already forgotten that I told them I don't like fish. It's been 2 months. I ate Shabbatot, Pisans. I don't remember these things. And then you realize that you shouldn't lie, even from a very logical perspective, because at some point it will catch up to you. I was on somebody's house in New York.
You got in trouble for that?
Yeah, I mean, not get in trouble. What did they do? Not feeding me fish? Okay, big deal. But I was once at a person's house in New York. They came to ask me to speak to them, whatever it was. And I noticed when they parked their car, they were going to give me a ride to where I was staying afterwards. So where'd you park? He said, I parked in that spot of his. It's not a parking spot. I know, I parked there anyways. Are you afraid of going to get a ticket? He said, they can't give me a ticket. I said, why can't they give you a ticket? He has this method that he's always leasing a car, and so it doesn't have to have license plates. So what about the VIN number? He covers up the VIN number with a book or with a paper or something, whatever it needs to be.
Sounds pretty halachic.
Yeah. And therefore, you'll see a police officer will come over, try to give him a ticket, but there's no way he can actually write out the ticket. So that was great when he parked the car. When we were going down to get the car, he couldn't find his car. And he started going that pattern. Oh, they took my car. They towed my car. I don't know what I'm going to do. What I'm going to tell my wife. I'm going to start going nuts. It turns out he parked his car in a different illegal parking spot. Not the illegal parking spot. He normally parks his car. And I told him, I said, my dear friend, don't you realize that for your lie, you cause yourself a heart attack every time you can't find your car? Because when I park my car in a good parking spot, I know it's going to be there when I come back. Is it worth your menuchat hanefesh, your spiritual tranquility, to always, every time, I don't know what happened to the car, or you go to bed and you don't know if your car is going to be there tomorrow morning? Is it worth it? Lies don't pay off. And therefore, someone thinks they're going to get shalom bayit by lying, I promise you, it's going to catch up somewhere else. And not only is she not going to believe you now, she's not going to believe anything you said for the last 2 months. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Even if it was a halakha, it's not worth it. But it's not a halakha. Rabbi Avram ben Aram says you cannot lie. I don't know who made this invention up. It's not true. You cannot lie for somebody. Yeah, you can avoid saying things. This is allowed. You can avoid. You don't have everything in the world you have to say. You don't have to give a report. You're not a newscaster. It's not your job. But the chokhmah, with a little bit of wisdom, if you feel something you're going to neglect to mention is going to protect somebody, okay, that's your calculation to make. But a lie to make up a sign, nobody allowed us to do such a thing. So I'm telling you all this. When I was in Israel, I asked Rabbi Peretz to give me a little bit more time than he would normally give somebody visiting him from outside of Israel. I told him, I said, you're my Rabbi. I need some time with you. We need to talk to you about some things, halachic matters, ashkafic matters, political matters. We need to speak. And our parents gave us about 7 or 8 hours of his time. 3 days, every morning. We were by him, my wife, myself, our baby. And we just spoke to our parents, like we're speaking now. More like I'm speaking now, you're not saying that. And I came out of there inspired and depressed. That's a better word, not inspired. Enlightened. Enlightened and depressed. I'll tell you why I was enlightened. See, when I first learned from Rav Peretz, I thought he was all about halacha. I thought it's halacha is what counts, nothing else in the world counts. And then I realized there are times where Rav Peretz tells us there are other things that are more important. Being an ethical person, a moral person. Just because it's okay according to halakha doesn't mean that it's okay according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There is such a thing, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem. There is such a thing called a naval. Birshut HaTorah, the Ramban mentions such a thing. A naval, a disgusting person who has the permission of the Torah. He does things that technically he's not breaking any prohibitions, but you're a disgusting person. Not you, this person. So that doesn't mean that you're allowed to do that. Just because halakha didn't say specifically you can do it. Hashem gave us an obligation to be a moral, upright. So maybe we're musarim, we're ethical. But not either. I thought maybe Rav Peretz is very lenient. Turns out that we're stricter about certain things than other people are. So we're not so lenient. I thought maybe Rav Peretz cares more about biblical things than rabbinic things. It turns out there's some things rabbinic he cares about more than anybody else in the world. So I can never figure it out. Like, what is it that motivates? What makes these decisions? In this last trip, I sat down with him and I spoke to him about this halakha. So we're about to learn. Now, for you, maybe in washing your hands in the morning. For me, it's a fundamental principle of the way we learn halakha. I said, Maran says X, but we don't do that. I thought we're supposed to follow Shulchan Aruch. Rav Peretz told me the truth is more important than anything else. The truth is more important than following Maran. The truth is more important than being Sephardic or being Ashkenazi. The truth is more important than anything in the world. If you see truth in the Ramah and you see you have to follow the Ramah, the truth. What are you going to do? You're going to ignore the truth. If you see truth in the Rambam, but you're not a Yemenite, you're going to ignore the Rambam because only the Yemenites follow the Rambam, so on and so forth. The truth, emet. You have to find the truth. The Rambam has a book on Jewish psychology. In there, he says, I'm going to quote many people that are not so popular to be quoted in the Jewish community because they're not Jewish. Non-Jewish philosophers, scientists. And the Rambam says, I know that if I'm going to list their names, nobody's going to read this book. And therefore, I'm not going to mention anybody's names. Some of these things that I mention will be from rabbis, and some of them will be from idol worshippers. And I'm not going to mention their names to teach you a very important rule. To kabel et ha'emet, you should accept the truth, min mi she'amar ota, from whoever says it. Doesn't make a difference where they come from, doesn't make a difference what group they belong to. If it's truth, you have to take it. Because your obligation is to be a truthful person. Like we say in the Torah, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Amim, Hashem chose us from all the nations of the world. What's the second half of that sentence? V'natan lanu Torato, Torat Emet. And Hashem gave us a Torah, a Torat Emet, a Torah of truth. Not a Torah of this half of Judaism, or this half of Judaism, or this group, or this rabbi. A Torah of Emet, of truth. This was a very enlightening experience for me. I figured out Emet. Not like I didn't know before. But even more. So why was I depressed? Oh, well, let's see.
How do you know what is the man?
Cage is much more difficult to live.
If you are
Out of cage of something, cage of Chabad, cage of Sephardi, cage of the
out of the box. Yeah, the cage, whatever would. You're right. That's why I'm depressed. I think I saw Rav Peretz. For me, Rav Peretz is like, it's like the luchot that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us. When I call up Rav Peretz, it's like spiritual recharging. The longer I stay on the phone, the longer time it can be till I have to call him back again. When I see Rav Peretz, it's already like it could go a month, with that. Just seeing, not talking, just seeing. So So Peretz like the Luchot for me. And when I came to Israel this time, I saw the Luchot after Moshe Rabbeinu broke them. I saw broken Luchot. I saw a person who spent his whole life trying to be so truthful, and it came back to bite him so hard. And everything. Peretz was supposed to be the Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel. But because he refused to lie in the political race of it, so he lost out in that department. To the point where the chief rabbinate chose to put him in a neighborhood in the middle of nowhere so that he never had a chance to be upgraded again to that position of chief rabbi. Why? He didn't want to lie. Harav Peretz recently had a bet knesset at the synagogue. For 40 years he was the rabbi of the synagogue. And a group of Jews came inside and just took over the synagogue. They changed the locks. They threw out all of his books. They pulled off the plaques from the wall. They destroyed that one Kodesh. Everything they destroyed. They wanted the synagogue. It was convenient for them. It took a year and a half for them to do it. They slowly moved in. Now they're in court, this court, that court, religious court, secular court. Emet is not so popular. Because people use falsehood to control over other people. And when you teach people emet, when you teach people the truth, it frees them from the shackles of other people's control. And people don't like it. Don't tell them the truth, because if you do, then maybe they won't want to listen to me anymore. And that's not so popular. And the Rambam says that he says in a letter, I prefer to be an enemy of every person in the world than to go once against the truth. So I don't care if everybody hates me. But to be a man of truth is the most important thing.
But sometimes it's not worth it.
What do you mean not worth it? Hashem is the God of truth.
Yeah, for example, at work, you're not dealing with Hashem. You're just dealing with some goyim. You just lie and make a shortcut.
Why?
Like, for example, like it's...
That's Hashem's world too. No different than anywhere else. It's still a country.
So, for example, like it's 4 o'clock afternoon, it's getting to Shabbat. Now you want to explain, it's Shabbat is coming, I can't do it. You say it's a family event, I have to go home. Done.
But it's not a family. You have a family coming over?
No.
So you're lying.
What am I going to do? I'm going to explain the
Tell
whole...
them you're religious, you have a Shabbat, and this is important.
Then you end up, every week you're having a family event.
Yeah, but wouldn't it just like
What did
be...
you forget next week?
It's not like they don't know you're Jewish, right?
Of course, yeah.
So what's...
I'll never forget that one Shabbat I was walking.
That's a problem.
I was really walking here on the way home, and there's some missionaries, and they want to hand me some of their materials. I say, I can't carry it. It's a holiday. It's a special day, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, so now you're going to say every day is a holiday. And I said, no, just every Saturday.
You should have told
You were
them.
too nice. I would tell them.
You should have told them that their Messiah wouldn't have carried either on Shabbat. That's what you should have told him. He also wouldn't be handing flyers out on Saturday. There's a value, not just a value. Hashem signed his name as Emet. Emet, you know, the Torah. It's Emet. We know it. The Gemara tells us, Chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the seal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Emet. What does it mean, Emet? Truth. What's the Hebrew alphabet? You know this. It's simple stuff. Starts with,
Aleph.
ends with,
Tet.
Taf, middle, Mem. Exactly. Emet. Truth. Bereshit, bara Elohim. Hashem created the world in the beginning. What are the last letters of Bereshit? Taf. Elohim. Mem. Bara. Emet. Backwards. If you go to the book of Bereshit with a pencil, almost every pasuk you have in the book of Bereshit, either the first letters or the last letters, Emet, 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 Emet. It says in the Shema Yisrael, V'limadetem otam et benechem ledaber bam. You must teach your children. Otam. What is otam? The Torah. Right? To speak in the Torah when they walk, when they sleep, you know, this is Shema Yisrael. V'limadetem otam et, otam letters, Aleph, Taf, Mem, Emet. V'limadetem otam, the Aleph from otam. V'limadetem, the last two letters,
Emet.
Taf, Mem, spelled out Emet. V'limadetem otam et, if you take the otam, the Taf and the Mem from otam, and et, the Aleph from et, what do you spell? Emet, you have every time you find here Emet, Torah, Emet, 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 Emet. Emet is not just like a cute thing that we do. Emet is Judaism. And it's a very hard thing to be Amitim. Because when you are truthful, you break all kinds of barriers. So what if you belong to this group? And so what if you... So what? What about the truth? What about the truth? So okay, I'll give it to you. The truth according to who? Fine. There are things in the world, it's a difference of opinion. Are both of them right?
Objectively, probably not. But the thing is, you have to make a decision yourself about what it is. So, who are you to judge, basically?
The world has a simple way of seeing it. You say something has soul. You know. This is alive, it has soul, you know, and then someone compromises the truth, like they lose their passion for their music or their art or their writing, and it's like they put out a piece of work, it's like a bunch of words on paper. The soul has gone out of it. I think when you compromise what's truthful in something, something dies. It can happen in an organization, institution, a school, a yeshiva. It can happen.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden it's like people are going through the motions of something, but the soul of it is there. And only special individuals see when that's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
You have to be a truthful person to pick up on truth. If you're not trained in truth, so obviously you're right. You're going to think everything is truth. But this question, it's a good question what Jack's bringing up. Okay, guys, let's put it to the test. You see the Rambam says something, and the Rashi says something. And they're arguing with each other, and one says it's black, and one says it's white. You have to do what's the truth. What do you mean what's the truth?
But truth and fact are different. The truth is the truth between every person's perspective, and fact is the fact.
we trust that both people are looking for the truth of L'Shem Shamayim. So is any argument for the
Okay,
sake
so it
of-
doesn't go. Okay, so the first step is just because someone would say something and it turns out to not be true, if their intention was valid, they're not a liar. It's not that Rashi or the Rambam would be. They could be wrong, but it's not bad to be wrong, because you would have to believe that Rashi and the Rambam, more than they would want you to follow their opinion, they would want you to come out to the truth. That would be a basic principle of our religion, that our rabbis are all searching to uncover the same one truth. I disagree with you. Truth is not subjective. There is an objective truth. Now, the Kabbalists do like to say, I'm sorry for getting philosophical today. Just on my mind, we have to share it. The Kabbalists tell us that there's something called the absolute truth, and there's something called truth. Now, every person has truth, but the absolute truth is when you take the truth from all those truths and put them together. I'll give you an example. The famous story about the three people in a room. It's a dark room. They're all holding on to something, and they're trying to explain to the other one what they're holding on to. So one says, I'm holding on to a hose. And one says, no, I'm holding on to the same thing, but it's a string. One says, oh, but he says, I'm holding on to a tree trunk. They turn on the lights, it was an elephant. One was holding on to the leg. One was holding on to the trunk. One was holding on to the tail. Okay. How they didn't get kicked, I don't know. But that's the story, right? Sometimes, yeah, we're in the dark. And because we're in Galut and we're in exile, and this group of Jews one there and this one there, so I have no choice. I'm in a dark room. I'm going to hold on to what I'm still holding on to. This is my tree trunk. Don't get me to hold on to because it's still not the truth. It's just your truth. I'm not coming to say here that there's not truth in everything. But there is an absolute truth. And there are situations where you don't know. You don't know what to say, which is right, which is wrong. And therefore you say, like yesterday, what did we say yesterday in Shul? The Kabbalists say, you should wash your hands first thing in the morning. The Poskim say, you could get dressed first. So which one is right? What kind of question is that? What kind of question is that? The Poskim are right according to Halakha. The Kabbalists are right according to Kabbalah. So what are you supposed to do? Figure it out. Are you flying magic carpets, or are you a person who still lives in this world? But there you're not asking to figure out who's the truth and what's not true. But let's give you a better example.
When you're looking for perspective, as we said,
Right.
where are you standing or what are you aiming at?
I'm even want to go just into understanding of the Torah. You know who the Rambam is, but the Ramban, do you know who he is? Say Ramban with a nun at the end. Maimonides, Nachmanides. Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman came right after the Rambam and was much more Kabbalistically inclined than the Rambam was. Doesn't take a lot. But, okay. The Ramban authored a number of books. Commentaries on the Rambam, at some places are agreeing with the Rambam, other places proving the Rambam was incorrect. Very different than the Ravad. The Ravad wrote a commentary on the Rambam, with the only intent to prove the Rambam was a heretic. The Ramban writes a commentary on the Rambam with the intent to show when he's right, to show when he's wrong, and always refers to him as Rabbeinu, our rabbi. Our rabbi. So, I'm proving him wrong, but he's still my rabbi. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, is very upset with the writing that the Rambam has in the Moreh Nevuchim. The Rambam in his Guide to the Perplexed tells us there's an entire parsha in the Torah, Vayera, in the beginning of in Bereshit. It says that Hashem appears to Avraham Avinu. And the Rambam says every time the Torah says appears, it refers to a vision, a prophecy, a dream. And this parasha didn't happen. Rather, Avraham Avinu dreamt about it. To which the Rambam goes on to explain that the whole Akedat Yitzchak, the almost sacrificing of Yitzchak, was only a dream. It was only a vision. It never happened. It never happened. They never went up. They never had an argument. They never had a sheep. None of it happened. All of it was a prophecy. And the Rambam uses this idea to explain all kinds of other problems that would come out if you were to read the text as it is. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, very categorically goes through every proof the Rambam has this is a vision, and shows how there are other places the Torah says vision. It's not really a vision, it's actually seeing somebody. Where if you say, Rambam, that this is a vision, where does the vision end? Are the Ten Commandments also a vision? Where's the ending? Meaning, if I know this is the beginning of a vision, what's the word that symbolizes the ending of a vision? Did our rabbis, you have to say, at the end of the day, the Rambam has an obligation to follow the Talmud. Did the rabbis of the Talmud ever give you reason to believe that this story never happened? And the answer is, if you go through all the stories of our rabbis in the Talmud on this specific parasha, they all believed it really happened. So with all due respect to the Rambam, clearly the Rambam here is incorrect. Does that make the Rambam an evil person? The Rambam had a truth that he came out to. The Ramban very clearly goes through and says, with all due respect, you don't understand how hard it hurts me to say the Rambam's wrong, but I'm going to say, the Rambam seems to be wrong in this parasha. Or at the very best, he was writing this piece to comfort a spirit that wasn't ready to handle that this whole story actually took place. But to say that about the Rambam and to turn him into an apologetic is not good for me. I don't like it either. So I'd rather say that he made a mistake than that he was an apologetic. It's been a rock in the hard place.
Are there people who have agreed with the Rambam on that?
The Rambam's an original thinker here, so there may be people after the Rambam who liked what he said, but not anybody before or.
No, I know that. I realize that. But the Rambam was pretty much of a rationalist, right?
Yeah.
So to come up with that idea
is the whole point of it is to make the story appear much more rational. I mean, it didn't actually happen. Don't put yourself into this dilemma of how did Avraham Avinu sacrifice this, all kinds of things like that.
All the things we sacrifice and all those things, nothing.
What?
You read Torah so many things. It's all
Now another question. There's so many things in the Torah
not real.
that you could also say that it would bother a rationalist. Why specifically this? Okay, I'm not here to stick my head. And so I remember the first time I taught this parasha, and I said what I said. I said, all due respect, if the Rambam is incorrect here. And I said, who are you to stick your head between the Rambam and the Ramban? The answer is, I'm a nobody. Trust me, I'm not sticking my head between either of them. But at the end of the day, that's not an excuse to not make a decision. Mm-hmm. So what? So I'm not the Rambam, I'm not the Ramban. But I have an obligation to understand this week's parasha. So what, I'm just going to, both of them are right? What kind of attitude is that? And you have, unfortunately, in Judaism, this both of them are right attitude. It's not true. It's false. And it damages us very much. The story about the rabbi.
Needs to take a stand.
A husband and a wife were arguing with each other, so they came to the rabbi. Of course. And the rabbi says to the husband, you're right. And the wife says, well, he says, you're also right. So the rabbanit comes in. So how can they both be right? He says, you're also right. Unfortunately, that's what our Judaism has become. We've become, I wouldn't call it politically correct, because we're not politically correct, but we've dumbed down our Judaism to the point where it's no longer okay to take a stand on a Jewish issue. So if I say a halakha, and I say what they're doing is incorrect, and I can prove it, so they still want to do it because they have a custom code for them. But if I can prove it, why should I not say it? Why should I hold back a truth if Judaism is all about truth? That's a question. Why should I? I don't have to say it in a way that makes them look bad. I don't have to say it in a way that's disparaging to them. But to not share a truth because someone else does something good for them.
There's a problem I find with the whole Rambam allegory, Akedah story, and that's that how many of us understand, the Rambam I'm sure did, understand what Nevuah is, what prophecy is, what level does it happen, and what kind of reality is it? Does it mean feet on the ground, walk, take a knife, kill, or is it something that is a spiritual reality that is real?
Meaning it could be that if we would understand how the Rambam understood prophecy, it wouldn't be so strange to us to say that this happened in a prophecy. Could be. I'm willing to say that. But in my earthly terms, I have to say what and I'm not alone. All the Mefarshim of the Torah agree with Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman on this one, not with the Rambam. But numbers also don't make a difference. So what happens if you have an opinion? And your opinion is based in something. But everyone else, those people, they always come to my classes. I don't think that everyone else's classes. Rabbi, it's so nice the class you get, but everybody else doesn't do that. What are you asking me this question for? Why are you asking me? Whatever. So go ask them. Why do I have to tell you?
Everybody else could be just 3 or 4 or 5
Very nice.
people.
Also, ever had a kid in school? Everybody in school is doing. What do you mean everybody in school? You do your math. 2 people in the class did it. So everybody's doing it. Well, let's assume they're right. Everybody's doing something. Do numbers make it right?
How do you do it merit ayin? People look at you.
Wait, don't get... It's a good question, but not yet. First, let's deal with this problem. Does everyone doing something make it right?
No. But they should have some basis to do it.
Well, there are majority opinions on things that have to be followed according to the Rabbanim. But sometimes they're not even necessarily right. Like that whole famous issue of the walls and the rabbis.
Some would say that a majority opinion only applies when all the opinions are on the same level.
All right, yeah.
Meaning, the numbers count when they're all original opinions of the same
Category.
caliber. But let's say you have, and also it has to be an original thought. Some say that only in the Talmud there's a majority rule. But after the Talmud, there's no such thing as a majority. How do you count the majority? Who are they? What if you have 150 Breslov rabbis who signed on something? Because their rabbi said you should do something. Is that 150 rabbis? Or is that one rabbi who they're all agreeing with? So how do you calculate the majority? It's very complicated. Very complicated.
It's the power of numbers.
And the power of...
How many?
And I see Jews. Oh, but everybody does. Everybody is not a proof. There are 1 billion Christians in the world. And if that was true, then I would have to be a Christian. No, I would, because the majority is... We're not even a fraction of that number. And there are 1 billion Muslims in the world. So inevitably, both of those, one has to be right or wrong. And here I have the chutzpah to say that I'm not even a number compared to those 2 groups, and I believe they're both wrong. Our religion is based on this idea that you don't have to be the majority to be right.
But if a group of people doing something in which I feel it's wrong, where I get that confidence, the chutzpah saying like they're all doing something wrong, but I just figure it out.
So I agree with you that not every Joe Schmo gets up and says, "Oh, I'm going against the stream." Not everybody. But what happens? That one guy. His wife calls him. He's driving. Don't answer your phone when you drive. His wife tells him, I'm watching the news and there's one guy who's driving against traffic on the freeway. He's crazy. Please watch out where you're driving. He said, are you telling me about it? He said, I'm on the freeway and there's 5,000 people going the wrong way. So what? If there's... who's going the wrong way? The numbers don't always count for something. So what about...
Prophecy of the truth.
Right.
One shouldn't speak though unless one has the authority to say something.
Very nice. It's also important. You have to know when you have the authority to speak and not to speak, and not everybody with an opinion is worth. There's a famous teaching of Kotsk. Not everything you think you have to write. Not everything you think you have to say, not everything you say you have to write, not everything you write you have to publish. So you think, fine, keep it to yourself.
It's the the antithesis of the internet now. Anything that comes up has
Has to be
100
blogged.
opinions, and any moron idiot says anything they want about something as if they're an authority, and it comes out being equal to someone who actually may be in that morass of people and actually have something to say.
Right. I mean, I tell you something that happens. Someone says, "Oh, how could you say that this other rabbi said?" So I wouldn't ever say this to somebody, but you'd have to then compare credentials between this rabbi and that rabbi, and say, do they have the credentials that you should even be going to the second rabbi and complain to them about it? Like I once said in the beginning of this class, not today. Not all rabbis were created equally. The Rambam carries more weight than myself, obviously. But even then, the great rabbis here, today, there are different rabbis with different levels, and not everybody is an authority on a matter.
There was I guess a reform rabbi or something that some of the pro-Palestinian were using. I'm ashamed of my people for what they did in Gaza. So it turns out it was like a mail order guy in Illinois or something. I mean, we wouldn't call him
A mail order rabbi.
Right.
But he has people who follow him. That doesn't-
You know, you have the same. You know those Jews? I see them also. They send me videos. See this Muslim preacher? He said that. Da, 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 da. How do I? I'm not a Muslim. I don't know. Maybe he's like a reform Muslim. Maybe he's Reconstructionist. I don't know. Like, what's his story? I don't know what his deal is. They tell me this Christian guy says he. I don't know. I don't have credentials in Christianity to tell you, is he a valid opinion, or is he? You know, Jews we like to do this a lot. I hear rabbis come and speak. There's a physicist, and he said there's no way in the world that God. You know, they're trying to prove Hashem. But at the end of the day, this physicist is one guy, and you have the 3 million physicists who are saying something else, and you have to ask yourself, as much as I would love this physicist to be right, is he representing the physicists? And the answer is probably not. You know, that's okay. But then we're sticking our head into issues that aren't ours. So back to truth, back to halacha. I was speaking to my wife on the way back from Israel. If there's one thing we're going to bring out here, it's truth. Truth. We see a halacha. We have to be open-minded about things, myself included. If you go and you research and you find that something I said is incorrect, B'ezrat Hashem, I'll say, oh, you're right. I'm not afraid to be wrong. When we learn halachot, we have to step out of this box of what does everybody else do? What does everybody else say? What does everybody else think? It's important. It's important to take them into consideration, not halachically, but practically. Practically.
As we found out before Shavuot.
When I was in Israel now, I spoke to Rav Peretz about the fact that we don't have a mikveh in our community. He said, okay, do you have a mikveh in San Diego? I said, yeah, sure. What happens is when you have a 3-day Yom Tov, that lady has to go to the mikveh. She has to wait 3 days. You know, kind of think problems. Trust me, I get phone calls all the time, all kinds of situations. So what should a person do? So Rav Peretz gave me a plan how you take a swimming pool and turn it into a mikveh. You know how long it would take us?
So long.
About 2 days.
Really?
I need 2 guys who know how to do pipes and some cement work. And
Pump it out.
2 days we'd have rainwater. You don't need rainwater. We'd be able to put together a mikveh. Obviously, it's not the most mehudar, lechatchila mikveh in the whole world, but one that works. So the rest of the week we could go to a real mikveh, but push comes to shove, comes through the Yom Tov. I was very excited.
I have an unused pool.
I said, I have so many mikvahs that I can open a mikveh at everybody's house. They told me you can't do it.
Could it be used in regular time as a pool?
Yeah, sure.
You mean locally they told you can't do it?
No, her parents told me I'm not allowed to do it.
Oh, you're not allowed.
I said, why? So you just told me how to do it. He said, because the last thing you need right now is for somebody to say about you, you open up a swimming pool mikveh. And then in 2 days you built a mikveh and ladies I go. He said, the last thing you need right now in the world, he already knows everything about everything. And he's like, you don't need that added to
Southern
your
California
record of what's going on down
Yeah,
here.
it's very SoCal.
It's a very big problem. Sometimes you have truth, and you have to be careful who you share it with. And you have to say, okay, I would love to do this, but I can't. I can't, not because I don't want to be truthful, but because it's dangerous to be truthful. It's dangerous to be truthful. Sometimes that danger you're able to handle. Sometimes you have to wait till the right time where you can then be in a less dangerous situation. So for right now, no swimming pool mikvahs. But these are things to think about. Not everything that you come out with, the whole world has to know that you do. Maritain, they're good. So you should find a way to do it so that other people don't know that you do it. Big deal.
Some people use the swimming pool for the shop.
Men, not for ladies.
Not for that.
Yeah. So let's look at this halakha.
The problem is that it's not always easy to find the truth in halakha, because both opinions have a bunch of sources to Talmud and for example, Rabbi, do you put on?
Absolutely not.
But how do you prove that this is wrong?
Rashi didn't wear them.
Find the-
Rashi didn't wear them.
It's full disclosure. If someone tells you you should put on the Rebbeinu time to fill in, what is the source? Is it minhag? Is it halacha? Where is it coming from? Am I obligated to do it, or am I taking on a minhag to do it?
A very simple question. I don't want to embarrass you. You put on Rabbeinu Tam, right? You make a bracha on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin? No, only on regular tefillin. What if you would not have regular tefillin? Would you still make a bracha on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin?
I don't know.
No, that's
Like if
no.
your Rashis were over at the sofa and they're getting
You would
fixed or
never
something.
ever make a blessing on Rabbeinu Tam tefillin.
Oh, really?
From this halakha, you see that it cannot be that Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin are the ones that people used to wear. Even those who wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin,
770, everybody.
everyone wears it, but nobody would only wear Rabbeinu Tam tefillin.
Both. Even in the negative part mitzvah, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no one
Use the opinion against itself. So if somebody who wants to do it, their rabbi tells them, "Look, go for it." But for it to then be, so who's true? I don't know. Which one do you make a bracha on? At the end of the day, which one's tefillin?
I was doing my research about archaeological, stuff, what was found, and they both were found archaeologically in the first century.
So what does this tell us?
This machloket is an old machloket.
It's an old argument. So it's not Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam arguing about it. Okay. Just like if you do your research, you'll find there were places where the people ate chicken and milk together in times of the Gemara. Good for them. We're not from those people. You're right. I remember once I asked Harav Pelitz a question. It says, on one hand, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein said this. On the other hand, a certain person said that. They're both the pillars of the world. So who do you follow? And Harav Pelitz told me that is such a ridiculous question. He says, you go to the Gemara. Hillel says this. Shammai says that. They're both the pillars. You know who Hillel and Shammai were? The world rested on their shoulders. In their generation, I don't know if there were 36, or just two people. So you stick your head in between every day and choose only one opinion. Part of Judaism is to know, I have one opinion. What can I do? So I'll deal with Shammai and Gan Eden. We'll sit down and he'll hit me on the head. Good for him. Good for me. What am I going to do? I have to make a decision at a certain point.
We don't know that you're going to meet them.
What? We don't know. I'll give you an example. The mezuzah on the door. I've shared this with you before, probably. Our mezuzot, Sephardim put mezuzot like this. There are two opinions about how to put a mezuzah, like this or
Like this. Horizontal.
like this.
Vertical and horizontal.
That's not an opinion.
Then why does everybody do
I'll
it?
tell.
Because they want to be correct in both ways.
No. So here's what happened. Sephardim said the opinion that makes the most sense, and based on the poskim, is like this. The Ashkenazim say we agree this is the way mezuzah should be. But what about that opinion? So in order to appease both opinions, the Ashkenazim invented this. It's standing up straight, but it's tilted to give
Respect to our
respect to both opinions. The Vilna Gaon comes along, not a Sephardic, but Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon said, I don't get it. That's not an opinion. Meaning, this is an opinion, and this is an opinion. But that, according to both people, you can't have as a mezuzah.
Wrong.
And therefore, if you do that on your door, you have to take it off and put it back on with a bracha, either this way or that way, but not that way. Obviously, there are people who disagree with the Vilna Gaon. But the problem with Vilna Gaon is a real problem. In order to appease both opinions, you're not really appeasing both opinions. You're doing a third opinion. You're making a third one up. You have to be very dangerous in making up third opinions. It would be much better for us to say sorry to you, but we have to go like that, than to go like this and not be right according to anybody.
How do you do your house? You put horizontal, vertical?
So my house I put up, but in the house I'm at right now, so the person who was before me left from mezuzot. I'm taking them down. I'm putting up my own mezuzot, but for right now they're like that. Unfortunately, kind of willing they'll be back straight soon. To go back to the tshuva. But a person has to know. So does that mean that there were no Jews? You know how many thousands of rabbis put their mezuzot like this? I'm not telling you that they're evil people. I'm telling you that in a halachic court of law, we'd have to say this is an opinion, this is an opinion. So great people did this, fine. But when I go up to Gan Eden after 120 years or wherever else I'm going to go, I'm going to be standing there alone, not with those 1,000 rabbis who I promise you, Hashem, I'm not going to ask them this question. But for me, I'm going to be there alone. So what I'm going to say? Oh, I relied on them. They said, well, they're not here with you right now. So what are you going to answer? This rely on. I have who to rely on. It's not a good attitude. It's not healthy. Yeah.
So, just think about this. Horizontal mezuzot on that door. Look at it.
Most of the doors are
How is
not
that
working.
going to work?
You would have to have a smaller mezuzah. It's a good question. You have to have a smaller mezuzah.
Okay, so does anyone have horizontal?
I have never seen it in my life.
Okay.
You guys want to start a new trend?
So what we have here is that most people appear to do it diagonally, and a few people, the right ones, Emmett,
No, that's...
go vertical.
I mean, when you would go to the sources, you would find opinions like this and opinions like that. In the sources, you will not find this third opinion. The third opinion is a result of the first two. So when I come to judge in a court of law which is the original Jewish opinion, I have two choices, this one or this one, but it could not be this one. Like yesterday when I spoke about tefillin, the Ashkenazim make the bracha on the tefillin right, and the Sephardim put on their tefillin when they sit down. It's correct. But they both do something wrong, because the Ashkenazim are standing up when they burn tefillin, and the Sephardim are sitting down when they make their bracha. So we're both doing something wrong. So the emet would be, take half from here and half from there. That would be the emet. I'm not telling you here only one way is always right. That's the problem.
I mean, you don't fly anywhere. One thing down, you went by yourself in the street.
Okay, so you're alone. That's Rav Soloveitchik wrote a book, The Lonely Man of Faith.
Rabbi, a question. Sometimes that we talk about like the truth, and you said like you always need to be truthful, but sometimes, for example, you go to the party and they're feeding you filter fish and you hate it, but you say, you know what? I love it. You try to smile. Who cares? You eat it, you hate it, but it's not worth it to be truthful.
Why isn't it?
What did-
Why should you harm your own body's health?
No, it's not a harmful thing.
These guys will tell you, I've been doing this for like 20 years here.
So it's not worth
Don't
it.
you see that there's Coke on the table and nobody's drinking it?
Because it's not good for your body.
Baruch Hashem, because Zev's Omed Al Mishmar is keeping
Coke
us in
does the
place.
body good. Wasn't there an old...
So tell me,
It's not worth it.
what are you
too.
lying about though in that story?
You say like, do you like filter fish? You say, yeah, it's good.
Why would you lie?
Yeah. What would you say? You're
you're
gonna embarrass the guy?
You're violating a biblical prohibition when you lie.
Yeah, but what? You're gonna
You
embarrass
would
the
be,
guy?
that's like
Why,
eating
that's not
pig.
embarrassing anybody.
Yeah. Why?
Why don't you just say, I'm sorry, I don't like gefilte fish?
Yeah.
You would say that about orange juice or about why dafka the gefilte fish you have to worry about.
Or treif. You go to non-Jews'
Yeah,
house
but
and
you're
you
gonna
can't eat their
embarrass the host.
food. But you're embarrassing your
Why-
house in a goy's house. I can't eat your pork chops, sorry. But you have business with the guy. You're
Yeah.
going to eat the pork
Why-
chop.
why do you have
and
to
it
be
looks
embarrassed?
nice.
We're so worried about things that they are not going to be offended from it. Trust me, some of us, oh great, we'll save it for next week. We'll serve it to somebody else. Maybe that'll happen.
They'll
Who
have a
knows?
bigger portion for themselves.
So,
Hey, wow, I take his pork.
this is all an introduction to this halakha. The halakha, in Siman Dalet, about washing your hands in the morning, and when do you make a bracha? When do you make the blessing? I know I promised you yesterday we're going to have chavruta time at 9:30. Give me a few minutes. So when do you make a bracha? When you wash your hands.
When do you say bracha?
Yeah.
Before or after you washing your hands?
For in the morning.
No, before is gonna be your tama already, so you cannot say bracha.
Say more than
Oh, okay, so that's already done. But when do
Modani
we?
doesn't have a Hashem's name, so you can say it
We
regardless.
learned that the first washing you don't have to,
Okay.
right? The second one.
Well, who can tell me the order of washing your hands? What happens? I wake up in the morning. What do I do first?
Modani.
Modani lefanecha melechai v'kayam. Right? Look, we say that tefillah. Then
And we don't get up quickly and kind of get up slowly.
you get up slowly, right? Slowly. According to the Kabbalists,
Wash your hands.
wash your hands right away. According to the Poskim,
Go to the sink and wash your hands.
you could go to the sink. You could get dressed first. Whatever it is you like to do, you could do that first.
Rav Peretz and Rav
Go
Yoni,
over.
Wash with soap first. Then.
Oi.
If you dress first, you forget all the time.
Oh, I don't know about that.
If you dress first and
Okay, but let's assume. So you get up, you're dressed, and you slept in your suit. So you wake up in the morning,
Okay.
and you say Modani, you go wash your hands right away.
Okay.
One. You know, we don't. Yeah, like that.
Yeah, okay.
3 times.
Yes.
Then what do you do?
Then you say bracha.
On what?
And washing your hands.
Why do you say bracha?
And then that time. Why?
Your hands already clean. Why say welcome now?
Wait. So what do you do next?
Go to the bathroom.
Go to the bathroom. Go to the
If
bathroom,
you
right?
can wait that long.
Right. If you can wait, we said if you can't wait that long, so you just go to the bathroom, right? But let's assuming you have a little bit, you can wait. You go to the bathroom. You step out of the bathroom.
That's a Russia.
Then you say,
You wash your hands.
say a bracha.
Which bracha?
And then say that.
Diet.
No, you
Duh.
you have to say chilul.
When do you say Shaar Yatzar? After the bathroom.
After bathroom.
After the time?
After the
tell me.
You have to have your hands clean.
Standard Jewish procedure. Modani, you wake up.
Yeah.
You wash your hands, alternating 3 times. One. You go to the bathroom. You come out of the bathroom. You wash your hands again. One. Then you make Al Netilat Yadayim. Then you say Asher Yatzar. And then you take your Siddur, you say the morning blessings, you say Birkot Torah, you go to synagogue. Okay.
How about the Elokei? How about the Elokei Neshama?
twice washing is enough. One.
What?
2 times washing is enough.
2 times you have to wash your hands.
Yeah.
Why 2 times?
Because the one time is after you sleep, so you
But when your hand gets tummy anyways, why do you have to wash your hand first and then go to the restroom? When you go to the restroom,
Tell me, why do you wash your hands the first time?
just because the tumor that you have is for the...
To remove any impurity or whatever
But
is
you're
on
going to
your
go to the
hands.
bathroom anyways.
Isn't it 5 reasons?
Yeah, but you...
Maybe in the bathroom you want to clean your nose. You want to do it with a
I'm practicing.
This is part of the 5 reasons. 5 reasons.
Yeah, because of the impurity.
There are
Only
different
impurity.
considerations. The impurity from Delilah from the night, and the impurity from the bathroom.
Right, like we
Take care of
spoke here.
one first.
You go to the bathroom. Now, after the bathroom, you have to wash your hands. I'll give you a basic rule. The first time you wash your hands is in order to take care of what you happened in the nighttime. The second time you wash your hands is the washing to prepare yourself for the tefillah.
Right.
That's really the next thing you do. The rabbis, when they instituted a blessing on washing your hands, instituted a blessing on the second hand washing. On the hand washing of going to the Bet Knesset, of washing your hands in order to prepare yourself for prayer services. Like the Kohen, remember the Budraham? It's like the Kohen who's washing his hands, not to go to the bathroom, washing his hands to get ready for tefillah.
So when you wash your hands to just go to the shul, do you still say bracha? No.
No.
So you're saying the bracha is for preparation for
For
do
going to
something.
the Bet Knesset.
So one.
So now,
do 3 and 3.
no.
That's for bread.
One.
It's the first one.
Also in the second.
Always.
Second one also?
Yeah.
Beside hamotzi, you always do 1. Right?
One step at a time. Remember, we're in morning now. We're going to get to the afternoon eventually.
You don't get any bread.
So,
Daven first.
so tell me. Ask the question on me.
But what?
When you say bracha.
Oh, we know that when you wash your hands for bread,
Say bracha.
you have to make the bracha before you wash your hands. Even though nobody does it. I don't know if you heard that. Even though nobody does it. So, we are nobodies. Baruch Hashem, it's good to be a nobody. So what about in the morning? What about in the morning?
make it before you.
Well,
So?
No? It's a good question. Maybe wait till Monday.
No,
I'll leave everybody in a crisis of faith.
Well, is it a mitzvah? Because I know it's a mitzvah to wash your hand for bread, but is it a mitzvah to wash your hand before davening? Because it depends on, because we say like Asher Kedishanim Mitzvotav V'Sivan, Hashem give us this commandment.
When did Hashem command us to wash our hands for bread?
He gave it to Kohanim, and we're doing it because of that.
So He didn't command us.
No, he given to.
So it's not a commandment.
Yeah.
So who commanded us?
Rabbi.
Our rabbis. Remember we had a class about this. Rabbinic mitzvahs, you also make a blessing on them.
Right.
Because Hashem commanded us to listen to the rabbis. The same thing with washing our hands in the morning. It's also a rabbinic mitzvah, like the Kohanim, like the Budrab says, or because of the impurity, or for whatever reason it's going to be. So I'll tell you the truth, is the way that I wash my hands in the morning is different than the way the book is going to tell us to do it. And this is why I'm telling you this. Because this is a discussion I had with Rabbi Peretz. Even if you look inside of the Shulchan Aruch, on page 52-3, it seems that Maran is telling you to wash your hands and then make a bracha. It seems to be. He's telling you to wash your hands and make a bracha. So what can I do? So I'm going to give up my truth because Maran wrote it the other way around. Truth.
Well, it says when he washes his hands, he makes a blessing. He should recite a blessing. So it doesn't mean after you wash your hands.
Right, so you're right. What Harav Peretz does is read into Maran, like you just said.
Yeah.
He says when you wash your hands and make the blessing, he doesn't say before or after.
Right.
Right? When you look at the actual text here in Hebrew, you're reading a lot into the Shulchan Aruch, meaning it's not so simple that what we're saying is right. But Harav Peretz says I'd rather read in a hard-to-read thought than do something that goes against my truth. So I'll tell you, here's what we do in the morning. Somebody wants to do like us, welcome to do so. You wake up in the morning, we're not Kabbalists, so whenever you get to the sink, you wash your hands. You go to the bathroom. You come out of the bathroom. You cannot make the bracha v'tilat yadayim. Tell me why.
Because you're tameh.
Forget tameh, because your hands are dirty. You're wearing the. So what does a person do? You can't make the bracha.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands with soap in the sink.
Oh.
Make your hands clean.
With the soap, okay.
Why? Why not we take a bath? And then,
Okay, maybe after the bath you don't have to make your hands. Okay, well, I'll give it to you. You make al tilat yadayim. You wash your hands, then you make an asher yitzah.
So you wash your hands with soap and then you can do
Al tilat yadayim. Because washing your hands with soap is not good enough for washing your hands for going to the Beit Knesset. And therefore, it doesn't count as washing your hands. You can make the bracha and then do tilat yadayim. You understand? We add in a step over here.
You wash your hand with soap.
Make a bracha, do it like the name, say after.
So what's the logic behind this? Maran is telling you that you can maybe make a bracha afterwards. Under what assumption? That your hands are dirty. So you can't make the bracha first. So outsmart Maran. What would Maran tell you if your hands were clean?
Say bracha first.
I would feel comfortable saying Maran would say make a bracha first.
But there's a problem here.
I'm listening.
Washing your hands with soap and water is not a halakhically correct way of getting tameh.
Oh.
Yeah, it's sort of like the half mezuzah in a way.
It's kind of,
It's
like
like 45
you're not getting
degrees.
tahara unless you do this.
Who understands what Zev just said? It's okay if you don't.
Yeah.
We didn't get there yet.
Yeah, because the definition of
It depends
clean.
on which opinion.
Very nice. Remember the 5 opinions for why you wash your hands in the morning?
Right.
Those who say that you have to wash your hands because of cleanliness, by washing your hands with soap and water, you've satisfied their opinion. Those who say because of ruach ra'ah, because of impurity, you specifically need to wash your hands 3 times in a different order in order to get off the ruach ra'ah. The question is, does having impure hands hold me back from praying? Like having dirty hands hold me back from praying? A physical dirtiness on my hand, would that hold me back from praying?
Yes.
It's not
Well,
quite
it will.
right. It's not
Yes,
quite
yes.
right. Not
What about impure hands?
No.
Well, I mean, psychologically, I don't know.
No.
So no, halachically, am I allowed to pray with dirty hands?
No.
No. Am I allowed to pray with impure hands?
What can it be?
Kabbalistic impurity.
Well, if we look at,
Well, one second. Yes or no?
No.
I think no, you
You're not
can't.
allowed.
You are allowed.
Okay. So
Because the Kabbalistic notion of impurity would not hold back the halachic requirement of tefillah, of prayer.
So how come the Kohanim?
But the halachic requirement of having clean hands would hold back the halachic requirement of praying. You understand?
But how could, if the Kohanim were impure, they couldn't do the mitzvah?
Because the Kohanim were in the Beit HaMikdash. And for them, their halachic requirement was to be pure. We don't have an obligation to be pure like the Kohanim.
Oh, I see.
That's why we don't have to go to the mikveh before we pray. That's why we don't have to bring a sacrifice before we all kinds of things. What?
it's interesting that on Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, that you're only allowed to wash your hands alternately up to the
Knuckle.
fingertips, knuckles.
Yeah.
But if you have dirty hands, you're allowed to wash them.
Tell me why.
Because it takes precedence to be clean.
Very nice. Because the halachic requirement of being clean takes away the halachic prohibition of washing your hands. Because you have to be clean.
When we talked about this issue, you mentioned that for Talmud, bracha is always before the mitzvah, except only
Once.
in the mikvah from.
Exactly.
What is it that?
When a convert goes to the mikveh, they can't make a blessing first because Asher Kiddishanu is not yet Jewish to say that mitzvah.
Right.
So he has no choice but to say the blessing afterwards.
Right.
But everybody else, I mean, there's never a situation where you can say, I can't make the bracha first. I can't make the bracha first. I mean, of course you can. You just have to do something. I mean, the person in the morning who says, maybe my hands are dirty, so clean your hands. You're not like the person who has no choice when he's not Jewish. Here you have a choice. You just choose not to be clean. Make your hands clean. Make the bracha, and then do Tatanayim.
So you always say bracha first and then do action.
Always.
So how about the Shabbat candle? If
Also.
I say bracha,
Also.
if I say bracha,
Also.
it becomes Shabbat.
No, it's not true.
And you asked
No,
this
you don't
question.
always. There's
What?
You asked the father and you asked him this question.
He's the Ben Ish Chai.
No, every question is.
Sure, there are people who make a bracha after they light candles. But the halakha from the Talmud, all the brachot you say before you do a mitzvah.
Well, isn't the bracha not fulfilled until you do the action?
Absolutely. This notion of Shabbat starts when you make the bracha was invented by ladies who didn't know how to read Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Sure. It's absolutely not true.
What is the source?
What?
What do you mean, what's the source? The source is Shabbat never starts when you make a blessing on candles. What do candles have to do with Shabbat? Shabbat candles have nothing to do with starting Shabbat, ever.
Well,
So,
if you light candles before the time of the beginning of Shabbat, Shabbat begins for you.
Yeah.
only if you say, with the lighting of these candles, I want to start Shabbat.
Yeah, with the intention.
But if you light the candles without the intention of starting
Well,
Shabbat,
yeah, that's true.
so then it doesn't start, right?
Right.
So then what's the problem?
But if you say bracha,
Yeah, what happens?
Saying, well,
The
how do you
Shabbat
wash
will start.
That's all.
I made a bracha on bread on Shabbat on Friday morning. So now I'm doing hamotzi for the nighttime, or what does that have to do with anything? Shabbat doesn't start when I light candles.
and when you say bracha, doesn't it start either?
You have to understand, if our rabbis tell us that all the brachot in the world you make a bracha before you do it, and they said we command you to light Shabbat candles, and you have to make a bracha before you light candles. That's what the rabbis in the Talmud say. I know later rabbis change their mind, but in the Talmud, in the Gemara, we all have an obligation to the Gemara. The rabbis weren't stupid enough to say, oh, here's the problem. You're going to make the bracha, you won't be able to light the candles anymore. We forgot. Yeah. Our rabbis, they had a plan. The plan was that this whole notion of accepting Shabbat with the candles didn't exist in the time of the Gemara. People didn't do it.
So what was the reason why the bracha is said afterwards?
There were ladies who were accepting Shabbat with lighting. And certain rabbis were very afraid.
That can't be the sole reason.
That's what it's written in the Shulchan Aruch. There's an opinion of a rabbi.
Well, what about washing your hands before you
Also, the Shulchan Aruch says the reason why people make a bracha after they wash their hands, they were afraid that people were going to make a bracha when their hands were dirty. And so, because of those people who wouldn't know to keep their hands clean, we make the bracha afterwards. It's a custom that developed, the Shulchan Aruch says. But that's not the original. Nobody would tell you that's the original Jewish custom. The proof being that you cannot find a source for it that's that old.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, so here's the problem. Oh, but don't you know? that all the rabbis, never found the rabbis agree on anything, but suddenly, all the rabbis make a bracha after they wash their hands. It's true.
Yeah, they look at you like
It's true. I challenge you to find a rabbi who makes a bracha before he washes his hands.
You, the only one.
One, but find someone else.
Beside you.
Find someone else. So does that make me wrong?
Your son?
My son, my wife.
Oh.
It was harder to get my wife to.
How about your
Rabbi
father?
parents?
Rabbi Peretz makes a bracha before.
Before.
My father makes a bracha before.
But you come up with this. Not you, but you're doing this movement of...
Here's the amazing thing. That when I follow a halakha, that the Shulchan Aruch says you make a bracha before you wash your hands. And the Rambam says you make a bracha before you wash your hands. And the Gemara says you make a bracha before you wash your hands. And nobody listens to the Gemara, the Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch. Suddenly I'm the rebellious one. Suddenly I'm the one who's violating Jewish tradition. This is amazing. It's a model of Judaism in 2014. This model has no future. Because if we cut ourselves off at our roots, we are going to destroy everything we come from.
You're not paranoid, are you?
Me? Not at all. It doesn't mean, by the way, that we have no right to develop customs and traditions. I'm not ignoring those things. But those customs and traditions must abide to halakha. I argued with my wife about this the other day. I told my wife, with all due respect, she told me there was a Hasidic Rabbi who prays Shaar at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, with all due respect, the Hasidic Rabbi. She said, how could you argue with him? I said, he's a Hasidic. She said, a Hasidic Rabbi, he's a big tzaddik. I said, I don't care if he's a big tzaddik. This big tzaddik still has an obligation to listen to the Shulchan Aruch. This tzaddik still has an obligation to listen to Moshe Rabbeinu. He can be the biggest tzaddik in the world, but you still can't pray Shaar at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, there was some Hasidic rabbis who they never prayed with the minions. You know that? Why? Because they were too holy to pray with people. They had special rooms they would pray in. It had a little window that they could, if they needed to, look into the synagogue.
Such a gahava.
Their whole life. I'm not saying they're big tzaddikim. I'm not taking away from their tzaddikim. They're not little people.
I thought it
Big
was considered to be an elevation of prayer, of davening.
Not for them. I didn't know. I'm not one of them. Okay. So there was a famous story that one of these rabbis came to visit Rav Kook in Israel, and Rav Kook was sitting with him for a few hours and came time for mincha. He said, "Oh, it's time to pray mincha." He said, "Okay, let's go pray mincha." So they go to the Beit Midrash. Suddenly the Rebbe sees he has to go to the Beit Knesset. He says, "Oh, sorry, I have to pray in a different room." And his Hasidim start to take him to a different room. And Rav Kook grabs the Rebbe by his coat and pulls him into the Beit Knesset. And he says, "Listen to me." He says, "I don't care who you are, but you also have an obligation to listen to Hashem." My friends, that's how Judaism works. You can be a big tzaddik and you have your own opinion. It's good for you. But you have an obligation to listen to Hashem. Oh, it's very presumptuous to speak for Hashem. Very presumptuous. But when you look at Jewish sources and you say, listen, Hillel did this, Shammai did that. So this group of Jews follow Hillel, this group of Jews follow Shammai. What are you going to do? Stick your head between Hillel and Shammai? Yeah, we do. But when you say that at least, that's a custom. I'll give it to you. It's a custom. It's a custom that goes against halakha, but it's a custom. That's a really old custom. When someone tells me, then this custom, how old is it? It's 200 years old. That's a custom. We're 5,774 years in the existence of the Torah. 200 years old is not even a blip on the radar screen. As you tell me, 200 years we've been doing something good. So the people 200 years ago broke Jewish tradition. So when you don't have to worry about breaking this tradition, because it's not so old. If someone were to tell you, oh, but they've been doing this for 200 years, how can you violate Jewish tradition? Say, I'm not violating Jewish tradition. The guy 200 years ago violated Jewish tradition. See, this is not reforming, this is not reconstructing. This is going back to our Jewish sources. So I tell you, you don't have to stand up and tell the rabbis that you know you're terrible. I'm not saying that here either. There's no mitzvah to be like Korach. That's what Korach did. Korach fought against everybody. And there's no reason to do a mitzvah just because you want to be rebellious. Rav Soloveitchik has an essay on the Korach Jews. He says they find, the blue string. I wear tchilit. I wear tchilit because I think it's a mitzvah. But there are people who wear tchilit on their tzitzit just to poke out the eyes of the rabbi who doesn't wear tchilit. That's not a mitzvah. That's being from Korach's, camp. You have to, what's right? So because you're right, doesn't mean you have to then go to the rabbi and say, oh, but I was in a class on Tuesday night and the rabbi, what do you care? Do what's right. Don't push it in everybody's face.
Yeah, but I have a simple question. The thing is like, There's actually a joke that the guy was stealing from everyone. It's like, why do you steal? So I learned it from Shulchan Aruch. He said, you should do al netilat yadayim. Netilat yadayim means taking hand. If you take it literally, it means taking hand. Like, I'm just like, take with my hands here, there. So here, if I just look at the word by word and try to translate myself, I might come to the idea that the stealing would be okay because I'm taking it with my hands.
So then you go back to what Zev said. You have to be an authority in the matter to make decisions in the matter. Absolutely, you can't just look at the guy doesn't know how to read Hebrew, so it's not my problem. He doesn't know how to read Hebrew. But so what does he do? He says, come, I'm going over and I'm going to ask somebody who knows what this means. Somebody who learned it. Right? Somebody who's aware of this. Someone who understands it. I'll end off with that verse. You know that I heard this from Rabbi Moshe Tendler. He's one of the rabbis in Yeshiva University. He's a doctor also. Rabbi, doctor, Moshe. Rabbi, doctor, rabbi. I don't know how it works. But Rabbi, doctor, Moshe Tendler is a big Talmid Chacham. He's the older brother of my Rabbi, Rabbi Yosef Tendler. And he said that in the name of his father, Rabbi Yitzchak Tendler, he asked the question that when a person breaks Shabbat by accident, they bring a sacrifice. They're not guilty. You don't get an averah for it. But you bring a sacrifice.
Chatat.
Korban chatat. What does chatat mean?
Chet means
That's
accidental
No.
Sin offering.
Our school says sin offering. I'm sure the King James Version says sin offering also. That's the word. Meaning I did something wrong. I have to bring korban. I have to bring a sacrifice. Says Rabbi Yitzchak Tendler, what did you do wrong? The whole thing is that you did it by accident. So what avirah, what wrongdoing are you bringing a sacrifice for? Have you thought about this question? If it's an accident, and Hashem forgives accidents, so why am I bringing a sacrifice? If I'm bringing a sacrifice, it must mean that I'm getting punished for something. So what is it?
It's because every mitzvah give you another mitzvah, every avon give you another avon.
Says Rabbi Yitzchak Tendler, you're bringing a sacrifice for the avirah of being an ignoramus.
Being what?
Being an amharetz, being an ignoramus.
Oh,
Of course the Torah forgives you when it's an accident. But you're not supposed to be making accidents, you're supposed to know something. And we've allowed people today to reach this point of, so if I don't know, so then it's okay. You're not allowed to not know. You have to know as much as you possibly can. So Hashem doesn't expect you today to know everything. But to keep your bar high. Keep your standards high. Expect from yourself a lot. Don't be a lazy Jew. Don't rely on somebody else to do your thinking for you. Don't rely on somebody else to tell you what it is that you should be thinking and doing and learning and practicing. And let yourself learn. Trust yourself a little bit. Put some more Torah underneath your belt. That's what we'll be doing here in the Kollel. So God willing, next week